Okay, how you going everyone? Hope you're all feeling good and ready to get started on topic 7. Topic 7, part 1. I think for this topic 7, part 1, I think I'm going to split it up into 2 lectures. Okay, so let's get our head around some terminology before we get started, and you probably know this already. Let me get my highlighter. The circulatory system is made up of the heart, blood vessels, and the blood. The cardiovascular system is only made up of the heart and the blood vessels. So when you look at the circulatory system, its main job is to transport substances around the body. And I have a little bit of an analogy here. So blood is what we use to transport the molecules or the cells. The blood vessels are like the roads, and the heart is what is providing the push that keeps that blood flowing. Here are some more functions of the circulatory system, but I think that the functions that we looked at on the previous slide is more of a general overview, and the ones that I think that you should be sticking to understanding. These are more specific. Okay. Here is another few more functions of the circulatory system, and here is a picture of the protein albumin. Now we're going to have a look at proteins in the blood in a little bit. So I just think that you need to understand the major function of the circulatory system. Okay, let's have a look at blood. As nurses, you really need to understand this tissue, and blood is the only fluid tissue in the body, and blood is made up of cells in a matrix. Here are the cells, here is the matrix, which makes them connective tissue. So blood is a fluid connective tissue. So we're going to have a look at all the components of blood, and we make sure we understand all of that. Let's have a look at the formed elements. The formed elements make up about 45% of the blood. So what's in there? Well, we've got red blood cells. The correct name for red blood cells is erythrocytes. We also have white blood cells in our blood. Now, the correct name for white blood cells is leukocytes. And then we also have platelets. Now, platelets are not cells themselves. They actually are just bits of cells. And they all of these bits, they all have different jobs. So we saw that the blood is made up of formed elements, but it's also made up of plasma. So blood and plasma. What's in the plasma? So plasma makes up 45% of the blood, and in the plasma we have water So plasma is mostly water. What else do we have in there? We have electrolytes, we have nutrients, we have waste products, we have gases that are dissolved in the blood, and we also have hormones. And we also have plasma proteins in the blood. So these are really important, so we have to learn about those. So plasma proteins, my slides are just out of whack a little bit here. There are 3 kinds of plasma protein present in the blood plasma. The most abundant plasma protein are albumins. And albumin is very important later on when we talk about fluid balance or how fluid moves around. We also have antibodies, and here is a picture of an antibody. And we're going to learn about antibodies when we look at the immune system. And there's also another protein here that's present in the plasma in our blood, and that's called fibrinogen. Now that is important for when we want to make a blood clot. So we're going to go back up here. We've got blood is made up of plasma and formed elements, and then plasma contains plasma proteins. Okay, so now that we know what's in blood, the blood is made up of plasma and formed elements, what's in the plasma, and what are the formed elements. Now we can look at some characteristics of blood. The word viscosity describes how much a fluid flows, or how much a fluid is resistant to flowing. So viscosity refers to how that fluid moves and what's stopping that fluid from moving. Now, you don't need to understand why different substances have different viscosities. You just need to understand what viscosity is. It's just a measure of flow. Now, viscosity or flow is very, very important thing. It's a very, very important concept because blood needs to have the correct viscosity in order to go through or flow through our blood vessels. So if you have a look at this GIF that I have here, the viscosity here is from low to high. So this one is lower, it's not as resistant to flow as this one, okay? So we need to keep that in mind. We need to keep viscosity in mind when we're talking about blood, because we want blood to flow a certain way. Right, so blood is actually more viscous than water. So what does that mean? It means that blood has less flow or more resistant or is more resistant to flowing compared to water. Okay, now here is a picture showing again if a fluid has low viscosity versus high. Now what can happen is that if you have too many red blood cells, that's going to increase the viscosity of your blood. It's going to make your blood thicker. And if your blood is thicker, then it's going to flow less. It's going to become more viscous. And if your blood becomes too viscous, it's going to increase the amount of work required to move that blood around. So bottom line, I don't know why my camera's going like that. The bottom line is blood viscosity is a very important parameter because the blood has to flow through the blood vessels at a correct rate. It can't flow too fast and it can't flow too slow. It has to be just right. So we did look at osmolarity before, and so you should know this already. Osmolarity is the number of solute or how much solute you have in solvent. So you need your blood osmolarity must be just right in order for your blood viscosity to be just right. And we will do this fluid through the capillary bed later on, but just so you're aware of it now, that your blood osmolarity needs to be at the homeostatic level. So your blood viscosity is at the homeostatic level. If you have too much stuff dissolved in your blood is going to be more viscous and is not going to flow as much. So have a bit of a think about that, what the link is between blood osmolarity and blood viscosity and flow. Okay, I might just pause it there and then we'll come back and do the next part.